What's the common trend between Mori Calliope and Kronii? Well, besides both of them being members of Hololive, of course, they both were inundated with backlash following their collaboration with a male, though both were for different reasons. The subject of collaboration has been one of contention for as long as VTubers have been working with one another. What could seemingly come off as just two creators coming together for a video could be viewed as a signal of something more to certain audience members. Now, why is that the case? Well, that's what we're here to discuss today. We'll be looking at both the recent Kronii drama alongside a previous one involving Mori Calliope, and seeing what is so controversial about these collabs. Buckle up, as this is going to be a fun one. Collaborations between VTubers is typically an enjoyable time for most viewers. If you're a fan of both creators involved, you see them sharing a moment together in a video or live stream, or in the case of an off collab, you get to know that your favorite creators are buddy-buddy beyond the myriad of the screen. Regardless of what type of collab it is, it's usually a win-win for creators and audiences alike. That is, if all parties are amicable. Well, isn't there somebody you forgot to ask? What happens when a collaboration occurs between a creator that you happen to like and a creator that you happen to dislike? Well, audiences can sometimes contain a fickle bunch who view collaborations as more than they are. Two people interacting in a similar niche or genre in a collaborative sense. Sometimes a particular creator collaborating with a disliked individual can be seen as an implicit endorsement of their actions, content, behavior, or even some of their opinions. In the eyes of this subsect of viewers, they wonder, why would you collaborate with someone who you disagree with? Don't they know that you can't like people you disagree with? Sarcasm aside, it's generally understood that if you do collaborate with someone, you probably do share some common ground with that person. And if you aren't vocal about what you differ from them, some fans could get the impression that you probably see eye to eye on more than you actually do. This is exactly what happened in the case of Mori Calliope when she collaborated with Kronii of Trash Taste. Now, I don't want to dwell into every detail of this drama, as it's frankly not relevant to the point of this video, and I can't be asked to resurface the molding that preceded the event. To summarize what occurred, Kronii of Trash Taste made a comment which displeased fans of Hololive. Essentially, a statement which is on screen alluded that if you join Hololive, you're destined for success, and you don't even have to be a good streamer to make money and be successful. The interpretation of this statement was that certain Hololive VTubers are talentless, and of course, if that was a fan's takeaway, they would understandably be angered by such a statement. Now, I would say this is not the most charitable interpretation, but it was something that a lot of fans ran with. In a case of very bad timing, Mori Calliope decided around the time this drama really surfaced to give 50 subs to Kronii, who fans now viewed him as somebody who was trashing Hololive. In turn, somebody decided it'd be a good idea to super chat $250, exactly the amount of 50 subs to which Mori Calliope had donated to Kronii. They used the super chat to comment condom money for Kronii, and now, as admittedly as hilarious as the super chat is, I think it's clearly disrespectful and a bit rude to do that, and I think it's the reason that pretty much caused Calliope to not read all super chats anymore. Soon after this notorious donation came, an even more historic event happened. This historical moment would be the infamous reply Calliope gave to a 6-day-old tweet of a parody of the Run a Girlfriend chapter 218 panel, showcasing Calliope being fucked by Kronii as the deadbeats got cucked. Now, as one would suspect, fans didn't like being called cucks, and almost immediately, a flood of comments came in criticizing Callie and calling her unprofessional. r/Hololive shared this sentiment. In response to the outcry, Calliope did respond in the Reddit thread saying, "Can I please just have some fun?" Suffice to say, that response got downvoted into oblivion. After probably realizing she was fighting a losing battle, she deleted the tweet and agreed that it was an unprofessional response, going on to Twitter and blaming it on, wait a minute, Lean? Anyways, that's the summary of the controversy, and it's exhausting, I know, but what can we take away from this? Well, a handful of things. First thing one can learn from this debacle is that you shouldn't compare your fans to one of the worst anime protagonists to ever exist. The next thing would probably be that collabs or even signaling support for people who the audience views as unsavory can lead to a tremendous spiral of events. This serves as a perfect case example of guilt by association, and stands as one of the major dramas in the long list of controversies Mori Calliope has unfortunately been involved in directly and indirectly. Now, I don't think a lot of these dramas are actually her fault, but, you know, fans can be fans. You can learn more about that in an upcoming video on the channel, which may or may not be out by the time you're watching this video. Regardless, one of the problems with collaborations in general is exemplified here. Guilt by association. If you collaborate with another creator, you're almost viewed as responsible for what they do or have done in the past in one way or another. That means if I collaborate with someone like X and they come out with a really spicy take, people will go not for only his head, but the heads of those associated with him. The reasoning behind this is that we as creators are viewed as having an obligation to be careful in who we platform or associate with. In Mori Calliope's case, she was held responsible for whatever potential harm or offense that Kronii statement may have caused due to her past and current association with him. Furthermore, some people even went so far as to make assumptions about how she personally felt about other Hololive members based on this association. Understandably, this is a frustrating experience for a creator to have to deal with. I don't blame Mori Calliope for being a little snide with her initial response, though it was evidently unprofessional as she admitted so. Lesson learned, don't take lean before going on Twitter. Anyways, on the subject of unprofessionalism, we have a reverse situation in how Kronii responded to her mini controversy over her collaboration with Holo Tempest member Vesper. In contrast, the situation was sparked in spite of how it was handled. Kronii decided it was best to preemptively discuss the situation before the collaboration occurred, particularly addressing her concerns around shipping. In this, she essentially stated that it was something she was against in reference to shipping her and the HoloStars, who happened to be male. Now, why would this be a problem if Kronii was seemingly fine with shipping her with female co-stars? Well, one would look no further than what happened when she did collaborate with HoloStars for the reason. Almost immediately, both in-stream and within the comments came a loud minority of people who didn't like the idea of their precious Kronii collaborating with men. This kind of response to just a mere collaboration with HoloStars is probably why Kronii jumped ahead of it and stated her boundaries with shipping. As she expressed in a later comment, there is a double standard in idol culture about same-sex and opposite-sex shipping that exists. Some people get heated and take things too far when they see a female VTuber that they like pairing up with a male, even in a friendly sense. And as seen with the Mori situation, some may even go so far as to harass Kronii or male co-stars over the issue through comments or super chats and etc. Obviously, this is something she'd like to avoid, and thus try to come ahead of the situation with the statement prior. Unfortunately, this is not going to deter the people that are going to be mad about the situation regardless. Kronii did make clear she would collaborate with whoever she wanted, as she's just here to have fun and make new friends. In tandem with her statement, Cover Corp released their own, basically reaffirming that they support the right of Hololive talents to decide who they want to and who they don't want to collaborate with. Furthermore, they also asked the community to refrain from attacking any Hololive members for their decisions, and I think most people in response to these statements stood by Kronii's decision and Cover Corp backing their talent. This response from the community is in contrast to how people reacted to Mori's situation, where it seemed community opinion was not on her side, though admittedly, probably for a good reason. The way in which the two handled the situation regarding their controversial collaborations came with differing degrees of professionalism and tact. Additionally, Mori's situation involved there being somewhat of a reason for why people were mad at whom she collaborated with, rather than it just being a result of their gender. While I could delve further into how Mori Calliope could have handled it better, I think I'll save that for a future video that should be coming in the near future. Regardless, I think Kronii's situation gives us more insight into the nature of collaborations, especially in the idol culture sphere. Certain expectations exist for idols and respectively VTubers as well. I discussed a bit of this in my other video discussing what's going to happen to the VTuber community in the future, which you can check out with the link in the description below or on screen, but essentially these expectations, while not always applicable to each and every creator, do tend to apply themselves to the bigger talents like Hololive or Niji-sanji. Female VTubers are sort of expected to keep a separation of their personal life from their persona, so to speak, and when that boundary gets crossed, feelings arise from certain viewers. One of these separations is relationships, which are particularly taboo to sort of talk about in this industry to some extent. Kronii, being aware of this, wanted to set a boundary in place to prevent any unnecessary and unwanted scrutiny that she or her male co-stars would receive if some audience members were to make assumptions about relationships. Thankfully, Kronii's audience for the most part seemed to be pretty receptive to her statements and the lines she drew in the sand. However, there will always be that small minority who will be upset with her regardless of what she has to say about it. Those who are still mad about the situation are probably likely to move on to another VTuber and claim them as their Oshi for as long as they don't make the fatal mistake of, God forbid, talking to men. In conclusion, what can we take away from these two collaborations? Well, the first thing would be that you can't win over every portion of your audience. You will inevitably make somebody or some group of people upset with your decisions to work with others. While they may enjoy you and you alone, it's possible that they won't enjoy who you decide to associate with. I've often watched creators I enjoy work with or associate with creators who I absolutely despise or just dislike. Either way, I usually just don't watch the video and kind of move on. And if I did feel the need to vocalize a dislike of their decision, which has happened a few times, it was over something more constructive than an out of context statement like Mori's situation, or the fact that the person was the wrong gender and I was jealous like in Kronii's whole drama. Suffice it to say, unless they're platforming someone despicable, malicious, criminal, or some mix of the three, I don't think it's really my place as a viewer to tell my favorite creator what they can and cannot do. It's their channel, it's their platform, and I'm just here to watch, enjoy, and support their content, and if I don't like anything, I can just not do that. So if you feel like you don't want to support someone like Kronii or Mori because of their decisions, that's perfectly fine. However, what isn't fine is making a big deal out of their decision and criticizing them for platforming someone who you just so happen to dislike. It's unnecessary and a little bit weird. The second thing we take away from this is that we need to understand creators aren't perfect. This may be a shocking revelation for some antis, but creators are people. They aren't going to respond or behave exactly as you want them to 24/7. Mori Calliope responded immaturely to a situation that was blown out of proportion. However, I do empathize with her reaction, as it isn't easy dealing with all the negativity on the internet. We shouldn't put her response under this hypercritical microscope as creators, reading into it like it's a goddamn piece of literature. It was nothing more than a dumb response fueled by emotions, plain and simple. Similarly, Kronii misspoke and said we shouldn't ship people when she meant shipping her with men in her original response. In turn, people looking for a gotcha on her tried to make her out to be a hypocrite when I think most charitable viewers understood what she meant. This is entirely another video in its own sense, but the branding of VTubers as idol kind of places this idealized picture of perfection in some viewers' minds. I do believe that most audiences don't expect this, but clearly some do. And for those people in particular, there's a quote which goes, "You need to give yourself permission to be human." I think what applies here is that you need to give creators permission to be human. Otherwise, you're bound to end up disappointed when they fail to meet your expectations. Anyways, that's it. I sort of went on a bit of tangent regarding my thoughts surrounding creator responsibility and mistakes, however I feel it tied in well with these two situations. Hopefully you enjoyed this video nonetheless and took something away from it. If you did, be sure to check out this video as well, discussing how the VTuber community has changed, and be sure to subscribe to the channel before you head over there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.